Morning Year 9, welcome to this 17th lesson in this series of videos on Jekyll and Hyde. Today we're going to be looking at the theme of reputation in the novel. So, reputation plays an essential role in the novel. In fact, it could be argued that this theme drives the entirety of the novel and is even the cause for the strange case, which is in the title. So let's start with reputation in the Victorian Age. So, in the Victorian era, which spanned most of the 19th century, reputation and appearance were not just important to people, they were essential. Despite perceived shortcomings in one's family, personality, wealth, and so on, the Victorians always put up a front to maintain a good appearance and uphold their reputation. Importantly, the novel is a product of the time period. In essence, the whole novel revolves around Dr Jekyll, a middle-aged, wealthy and respected physician, trying to maintain his reputation while still indulging the lusts of his evil side. This is personified in Mr Hyde. So let's take a detailed look at how the theme of reputation impacts the plot of the novel. So the reputation of Dr Jekyll. Dr Jekyll, of course, is the best example of struggling to keep up a certain appearance for the sake of reputation. His motivation for creating Hyde is not just scientific, but that he may indulge the duality of man, or both good and evil. Even more, he is excited when he transforms into Hyde, because he realises he no longer looks like Jekyll. So he can essentially do whatever he wants without affecting his reputation. He hits people, tramples a child, and even beats an old man to death while being Hyde. But none of these events have any repercussions for Jekyll's character. So I'll just give you some time to make notes if you need to, or pause the video. Alright then, let's move on to a good friend. So Mr Utterson, a friend of Jekyll's and the character whose perspective is the narrative, tries to help his friend keep his reputation. When Utterson first learns about Hyde from his friend and fellow lawyer Mr Enfield, he recognises the name and remembers seeing it in Jekyll's will as his benefactor. After meeting Hyde, Utterson is convinced he is bad news and is blackmailing Jekyll. Jekyll would not be surprising. Blackmail would not be surprising since it plays on one's love of a good reputation. Enfield even calls the house that he saw Hyde coming out of the blackmail house. Utterson, knowing the importance to Jekyll of keeping up his reputation, offers his services to help his friend get out of a sticky situation with discretion. Let's move on. The Distasteful Mr Hyde. While Jekyll is incredibly concerned with keeping up his good reputation, Hyde has little concern about this, much to the hate of the rest of London. When Mr Enfield observes the trampling incident, he notices many people want to kill Hyde for his gruesome actions. Enfield decides that instead of murdering the monster, they should spread word about what he has done, giving him a bad reputation and making his name stink. Despite the efforts of the characters to ruin Hyde's reputation while upholding Jekyll's, Hyde is not very concerned about this. However, he does write a cheque to cover the medical bills of the child he trampled. Instead, he acts as an anti-Victorian figure. That's important, an anti-Victorian figure. Perhaps intended to demonstrate the absurdity of the Victorian focus on reputation. So when you think of what leads Jekyll to create his alter ego, it is not about good versus evil, so that he can be completely good. Instead, Jekyll feels little remorse for Hyde's actions until they spiral out of control. He even enjoys the feeling of succumbing to his dark urges. His motivation in being Hyde is so that his evil actions do not affect his reputation. If it were not for the Victorian standards of a man's reputation, would Jekyll have even undertaken the experiment at all? So, in summary, reputation in the Victorian era was of the utmost importance, and Stevenson's novel reflects this. Dr Jekyll, the protagonist, creates his alter ego, Mr Hyde, so that he may follow the dark urges he feels while still being able to keep his good reputation. His friend, Mr Utterson, is concerned about Jekyll's reputation, believing Hyde is blackmailing him and tries to offer assistance, though Jekyll wants none. Mr Enfield, a friend of Utterson's, is the one who tells him about the child trampling incident, which sparks Utterson's curiosity and concern. Hyde acts as a counter to the Victorian expectation of reputation, since he is unconcerned about his reputation and does evil things with no remorse. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a bit of insight into that theme in the book. Again, as an extension, I would like you to find some more quotations in the text to show this theme of reputation. And yeah, thank you for listening.